Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I wanted to first thank you all because last night I crossed the 10,000 subscriber mark, and when I started this, I can remember when I had under 100 and I couldn't believe that I had gotten to 100 subscribers, because ultimately I'm just a guy that decided to start a YouTube channel and talk about what I'm passionate about, which is cryptocurrencies and specifically XRP. To celebrate my 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to do things just a tad bit different today. I believe that I truly believe that the news of yesterday it indicated that all of the naysayers and all of the people that you've heard say, oh, XRP will never be used by the banks and everything. I truly believe that the news that came out yesterday was a final call for the naysayers to get on board, if they're ever going to get on board. And I truly believe that many of us are about to have some life-changing things happen. Those of us that hold XRP, you've probably, I'm sure, looked at the coin market cap charts today. I don't think it's a coincidence that XRP is up more than most of these currencies, and it's probably pulling most of them up along with it. I believe that you'll see a day very soon that XRP is far and away ahead of all of these, and will sooner rather than later jump Bitcoin. I believe that that's something you will see, because in the end, XRP will be the digital asset that displays for the world that digital assets can have utility, and it will do it soon. I wanted to go over that one or two pieces of news from yesterday that is the reason for saying this. The first was that Ripple picks 3 crypto exchanges for international XRP payments. What they're doing here is they chose Bittrex, Bits, and Coin.ph. One of these was out of the Philippines, one was in Mexico, I think. And of course, Bittrex is a large exchange in the United States. They have signed on with these, and it's with XRP to use to facilitate the payment flows between banks globally. And I believe that this is setting the stage for XRapid's use with payment companies and ultimately banks. And in the same day, Corey Johnson said that Ripple's XRapid is moving into production later this year. And this same week, the Mercury FX founder said that he's looking forward to going into production. So, to the naysayers out there, we welcome you on board this train, because the train's about to leave the station, as we told you all along. And you will be proven wrong in short order. To those of you that have been here with me and continue to be holders of XRP, you're about to experience some exciting times. I've never doubted it for a minute. I now want to speak to a lot of the young people out there, but also not just young people, because you never know at what age your life could make the turn for the better, and you need to be prepared for it. Many of us talk about what we would do when we cash out on XRP and how our lives would be different. And I think many people say, and they probably actually don't mean it, I've said it myself before, that once we had enough money, we would no longer work or anything like that. Well, I personally have said that, but I don't really mean that. I believe that the second that you don't have a reason to get out of bed, you begin the process of death. I don't think it's good for anybody to ever quit working. Now, that's not to say that in retirement you can't have other things that you do. You may be a traveler, or you may love working in the garden, as long as you have a passion like that. But who I'm really talking to is the people who, like me, I will probably do some form of work until the day I die, because I enjoy work. And I think that for most of us, having some kind of work is what keeps life exciting, and having some kind of goal or destination or vision. But I bring all of that up. One of the main reasons I bring that up is because many investors in cryptocurrencies is the new generation. It's Alex Cobb's generation. It's the younger people who, very likely, many of whom will be very wealthy at a very young age. And in my opinion, that can be very good, but it can also be very dangerous. Some of the most miserable people that I know are some of the wealthiest people in the town that I live in Georgia. And the reason I believe that they are, many of these people, especially the ones that are born to wealth, I believe that the reason that they are so miserable is because they never have in their entire life, they've always had a feeling of, well, what can I really accomplish? It's already been done for me. And so there's no way that I could possibly accomplish more than the prior generations of my wealthy family have accomplished. Well, I think that having, and it may not sound like it's true, but I think that in many cases it is true. I think that many people that are born to nothing, if they discover it, can have an opportunity to find something that a child born of wealth can never find. And in this vein, and I try to teach my children what I'm about to go over with you, and I find things all of the time on YouTube and other places that inspire me, and I always make it a point to show them to my children. And so I wanted to go over one that I showed my children the other day, because this in particular really grabbed me. And it's the story of, I had seen it online, and it was the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, all of you know Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know who he is, but many of you may not know his story. Whether you're young or old, you may not know his story. But he, in his story, he mentioned that many people have asked him throughout his career what he thinks how to become successful like him. And so he gave a speech, and I'm not sure where he gave it. And at the end of this, I'll try to refer you to it, because he could, of course, say it better than I could. But I was inspired enough to make some notes about what he said, because I think that as some of you do cash in on your XRP and cryptocurrencies, I believe that you need to incorporate the things that Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about to make your life more fulfilling. So what he talked about in his speech was the 5 rules that he had for success. And the first rule that he said was that you need to find your vision, and that could be your goal or your passion, ultimately something that you're passionate about. And he goes on to talk about how he grew up in Austria after World War II. And during that time, they had, of course, lost the war, and there was depression, and he was extremely poor. And he wanted a way out, like many people probably did. He said that he was in school one day and he watched a documentary about America. And when he saw the documentary, he immediately decided that that's where he wanted to be, so that he could have a better life than he currently had. But he had no idea how he was going to get there. He had no money to travel and had no idea how he would get from point A to point B. He said that one day he picked up a bodybuilding magazine just completely randomly. And he said on the cover there was a bodybuilder whose name was Reg Park, and he was the current Mr. Universe. And the guy had become, in the movies, he had become Hercules, and he was the star in the Hercules movies at the time. So he began reading this article about Reg Park. And Reg Park had grown up in Leeds, England, and he was poor just like Arnold was. And in the article, he said that he trained 5 hours a day, and he eventually became Mr. Great Britain. And then Reg Park became Mr. Universe, and then he did it for a second and a third time. Reg Park then eventually landed the role in Rome to play Hercules. And it was at this time, reading this article, that Arnold Schwarzenegger had a vision that he wanted to be just like Reg Park. And he said that from that moment, he had his vision and his purpose. Arnold's second rule for success, he said, never ever think small. That was the second thing he said. And as an example, he said, I did not want to become Reg Park and be in the movies. He said, I wanted to be the biggest movie star in the world. And he said, that's how he thought. He said, I wanted to become the highest paid movie star in the world. And he was illustrating this point at that time. John Wayne was the biggest movie star in the world. And he said, I wanted to be John Wayne. So he didn't just say, I wanted to get to America and be a bodybuilder or even be Mr. Universe. He wanted to parlay that into being a movie star, being the biggest movie star in the history of the world. And so that was his point, is never ever think small, think huge. Number three, and as an XRP holder, this should hit home with you, because this is something, no matter what you're trying to do in life, I've learned this, and you've all probably learned it as well in many situations. The second that you start trying to do something big, it's almost as if the people around you, not all, but some, it's almost like they want to bring you down to their level and keep you from going on and doing bigger things. And so his third rule, Arnold's third rule, was to ignore the naysayers. You know those naysayers, the ones that tell you you're an idiot for investing in XRP. He says to ignore the naysayers. And this is one of the more interesting parts of his video. He said, people said, they said, I don't think it can be done, when he told them he could go and become a bodybuilder and go and be a Mr. Universe. He said that the Austrians told him he was crazy because bodybuilding was an American sport. And then he said that once he had gone and become a bodybuilder and gone into America and become Mr. Universe, the agents in Hollywood, when they told him that he wanted to be a movie star, the agents in Hollywood laughed and told him that he could never be a leading man. And they told him one of the reasons was because his body was just too big, and that was just not that he was so big and muscular that just wasn't what a leading man was. And then they made fun of him about how his accent was so awful and told him that it would never work. And they said things, he used another example. They said, have you ever seen an international movie star with a German accent? It just doesn't happen. They made fun of his last name as well. They said, who is going to storm the movie theater to come see a guy with the last name of Schwartz and Nitzel or whatever? And he didn't, of course, as we all know, he didn't listen to any of them. He said that what he did instead is he took acting classes. He took English speaking classes. He said he took accent correction classes. He said he took any kind of classes he could do to better himself, to prove all of these guys wrong, that they were wrong about it. And then he said that he finally got a small part in a movie. And then that led to another small part. And then he eventually landed his big break, which was in Conan the Barbarian. I can remember that movie from when I was a kid. And he said that ultimately the director said if we wouldn't have had Schwarzenegger in Conan the Barbarian with all of those muscles, we would have had to build one. That's how effective that he was with all his huge muscles. And then he said that when he did Terminator, James Cameron said later on, he said the "I'll be back" line became one of the most famous movie lines in history because of Arnold's crazy accent and because it made him sound like a machine. And so Arnold's point in telling all of that was that what the naysayers had claimed would be a liability actually became an asset. And that is a hell of a lesson. Arnold's fourth rule is to work your butt off. And what he said, you don't want to ever say to yourself that you failed because you didn't work hard enough. He said that when he was working towards being Mr. Universe and towards being an actor and towards just surviving while he did those things, he said he trained 5 hours a day with the bodybuilding. He managed a construction business and was a bricklayer. And he did this while he was going to college and while he was taking acting classes from like 8 o'clock until midnight. So he said, no matter what, you work your butt off. His fifth rule was, don't just take, give back. And his point in this is that you don't need to just focus on yourself. You need to use your successes to help other people. And he talked about how he trained Special Olympians and he started after school programs for children to keep them away from gangs and drugs after his successes. I hope that these things about Arnold Schwarzenegger will make you think about what you're going to do, not just after you cash in on your cryptocurrency or XRP, but even now. You should be thinking about what is your passion, what are the things what is the vision for your life, no matter what stage of life you're at. You may hate your current stage of life. You may hate getting up and going to work right now. Well, what is it that you would ultimately love to do? What would be your passion, or what vision would really make you want to get up and get out of bed in the morning? I wanted to finish this kind of as a takeoff on what he said about giving back. I wanted to finish this with a quote from Zig Ziglar, who was an old school motivational guy. I'm not sure if he's still living or not, but I used to listen to some of his things. He's a really smart guy. One thing he said that always stuck in my mind, he said, you can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. I am not an investment advisor. I am the digital asset investor. This is for entertainment purposes only. I hope that you will please subscribe. And again, I really thank everyone for watching my channel, and I appreciate all of the subscribers and all of the support, and I will keep them coming. And as I said on Twitter yesterday, we're on this ride to the moon together, and I'll be here to see it through. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.